The story begins with Herbie, an old race car who for years was the best on the track. He never lost a single race. Together with his owner, he traveled to all kinds of places and lived many adventures until one day he suffered a serious accident. After that, everything changed. Defeats started to come, and eventually Herbie was sent to a junkyard. When he arrives, he meets Dave, the owner of the place, and from the very first moment, they don't get along at all. The truck driver even warns Dave not to mess with that car because he's very proud. When Dave tries to lower the Beetle from the trailer, Herbie splashes oil all over his shoes. Dave and the driver push the car while Herbie struggles not to be dragged away. At first he resists, but then he decides to try on his own when he spots a possible way out. Just as he is about to escape the yard, he falls into a trap and his tires get punctured. With no other choice, Herbie has to accept his fate and wait, alongside other used cars, for the day he will be crushed. Weeks later, in another part of the city, Maggie Peyton arrives at her graduation on her skateboard. She is graduating in journalism, and after the ceremony, she celebrates with her father, Ray. He is very proud of her, since Maggie is the first in the family to graduate from college. Her mother passed away when Maggie was little, but Ray tells her that, if she were still alive, she would be proud too. At that moment, her best friend Charisma shows up with a brand new car, a graduation gift from her parents. In a month, Maggie and Charisma will move to New York and share an apartment while they begin their professional careers. Ray, who is a racing coach, invites Maggie to watch her brother Ray Jr. at the racetrack. When they arrive, they meet Sally, one of the sponsors of the Peyton team. As usual, Ray ends up crashing while taking a turn. He is training for a NASCAR race that will take place in a few weeks, but the problem is clear. He doesn't have much talent for racing. That night, back at home, Maggie looks at the pictures hanging in the living room and remembers her grandfather, one of the greatest racers of all time. He is her biggest inspiration. When she was a teenager, Maggie dreamed of being like him, but everything changed after she had an accident on the track and spent 2 months in the hospital. Since then, her father has forbidden her from racing again. Before going to bed, Ray reminds her that the next morning he will take her to buy her graduation gift, just as he promised. The next day they go to the junkyard so Maggie can choose a car. Herbie watches as she looks over an old race car and decides that he wants to go home with her. The little Beetle tries to get closer, but he can't move because his rear wheels have been removed. At that moment, the car is towed away to be destroyed. As a last resort, Herbie honks his horn to get Maggie's attention, but she is more interested in a Nissan right in front of him. She is about to close the deal with Dave when the Beetle is lifted by a crane and about to be dropped into the crusher. However, Herbie manages to break free and falls on top of the Nissan. With no better option, Maggie decides to take the Beetle, and at last Herbie finds a new home. Ray makes a few minor repairs and asks Maggie to drive the car to the shop so Kevin can take a look at it. When she gets in, the glove compartment opens and she finds a letter from Herbie's former owner, asking the new owner to take good care of the car. As soon as she starts the engine, the Beetle suddenly takes off on its own, and Maggie gets scared. Herbie drives her straight to the shop and almost runs Kevin over. When he sees her, he is surprised by how much she has changed. Kevin has been in love with Maggie since high school and hasn't seen her since she left for college. He offers to restore the Beetle, but first he needs to test drive it. As they drive through the streets, Herbie begins to release a huge amount of smoke. Embarrassed, Maggie seriously considers returning the old car, but Herbie has no intention of allowing that. Suddenly, the vehicle lifts itself and starts driving on only its 2 rear wheels. Maggie loses control, and when she finally reacts, she realizes she has ended up inside a sports car exhibition. There, she runs into some former classmates and Tripp, the current Nextel Cup champion. When Tripp appears, the crowd gathers around him asking for autographs. At that moment, Herbie starts honking non-stop. Maggie opens the hood to silence him, but the Beetle sprays oil all over her shirt. She is forced to change, and luckily Kevin finds a racing suit and a helmet in the trunk. Once changed, Maggie gets back into the car and Herbie nudges her right on top of the helmet. When Tripp sees the Beetle, he mocks them and tells them to take that car back to the circus. Angered, Herbie uses his side mirror to scratch the side of Tripp's car. To settle things, the crowd suggests a race, and Tripp accepts the challenge. Maggie tries to get out to apologize, but the Beetle locks all the doors and windows and heads straight for the track. Tripp joins them and Crash gives the starting signal. At that moment, Herbie's gears line up and the race begins. Maggie tries to take control, but the car won't let her drive. Despite being old and worn out, Herbie manages to keep up with his rival. Tripp starts playing dirty and tries to force them off the track. That's when Maggie's competitive spirit awakens, and she decides to team up with Herbie to go for the win. The car finally lets her drive, and together they work to catch up to Tripp. He tries to knock them out again, but is stunned by Herbie's maneuvers. As they approach the finish line, the Beetle climbs onto the safety barrier, pulls ahead, and wins the race by a hair. After the race, Herbie is exhausted, and Tripp can't believe he lost to an amateur. In the garage, Maggie tells Kevin that she thinks she wasn't really the one who won the race, but Herbie. Kevin doesn't take the story seriously and congratulates her on her talent. After all, she just beat the supposed future champion in a 1963 Beetle. The next morning, Maggie sees her father arguing with her brother and learns that they have lost another sponsor because of the team's poor performance. When Sally arrives in her yellow Beetle, Herbie instantly falls in love with her. Sally brings a videotape and shows Ray footage of a street race. He is shocked to see that the Beetle his daughter bought at the junkyard won a race, but he is also furious when he finds out that Maggie raced again. To calm him down, Maggie claims that it wasn't her driving, but someone named Max. From that moment on, that will be her racing name. While Maggie quietly celebrates her victory, Tripp is still furious over his defeat. Larry tries to calm him down, saying that no one cares about a street race, but Tripp can't get over his wounded ego and demands a rematch. So he orders his team to organize a 2-day race, convinced that Max will show up. When Maggie returns to Kevin's shop, he shows her the project he is designing to transform Herbie. However, Maggie says she can't race anymore because after her accident she promised her father she would never compete again, and now she feels bad for having lied to him. While they talk, Herbie sees a newspaper ad for a race with a $10,000 prize. When Maggie gets into the car, the Beetle shakes its hood, making the newspaper stick to the windshield. When she sees the prize money, Maggie realizes it could be the solution to get the money she needs to move to New York. Kevin makes her a deal. If she agrees to enter the race, he will restore the Beetle for free, and if she wins, they will split the prize. Even though she is afraid, Maggie accepts. The duo then begins working hard to turn the old Beetle into a real race car. They wash it, replace several parts, and Maggie starts training. After the overhaul, Herbie even gets a sunroof. Meanwhile, Tripp and Crash try to uncover the Beetle's secret. Tripp is determined to find out what that car is hiding under the hood. That same night, Maggie overhears a conversation between Jay and Sally and learns that her father is about to lose his last investors because of her brother's poor performance on the track. This hits her hard and motivates her even more to give everything in the upcoming race. When the day of the big competition finally arrives, Tripp is surprised to see the Beetle now equipped with a turbo and asks how Maggie and Max met. But Kevin shows up just in time. In the first round of the competition, dozens of cars take to the track, but only one can win. The winner will face Tripp the next day, and if they manage to beat him, they will take home $10,000. As expected, Herbie and his driver defeat all the other racers and qualify for the next stage. Later, while reviewing footage of the race, Tripp notices a lock of red hair sticking out from under Max's helmet and realizes that the driver is actually Maggie. That night, Herbie sees the yellow Beetle again and drives up to it. When Maggie and Kevin notice what's going on, she admits that her car has a mind of its own and that she has to accept that reality. Kevin gives Maggie a necklace as a good luck charm. Then, just as Maggie and Kevin are about to kiss, Tripp shows up and shines his headlights on them. He asks Kevin to leave because he wants to talk to Maggie in private. Once Kevin is gone, Tripp asks her why she isn't the one driving her own car, since racing is in her blood. He also confesses that he only became a racer because he deeply admired Maggie's grandfather. Finally, he asks if she would like to know what it feels like to drive a real race car and hands her the keys to his own vehicle. Herbie gets jealous and watches closely as Maggie gets into Tripp's car for a ride. Meanwhile, Tripp takes advantage of the moment to inspect the Beetle. But Herbie is not intimidated. He sprays fuel in Tripp's face and then slams the hood down on his head. Furious, Tripp grabs a tool from his box and strikes the Beetle several times, trying to destroy him. But Herbie's body is so tough that he doesn't suffer a single scratch. When Tripp turns around, the Beetle takes the chance to mock him. Minutes later, Maggie returns, thrilled, and says it was the most incredible experience of her life. Then Tripp makes her a proposal: raise the stakes. The winner of the next day's race will not only take the $10,000, but also the loser's car. At first, Maggie refuses, but when she thinks about her father and the team's difficult situation, she changes her mind. She knows Tripp's car is worth a lot of money and that it could help her father, and she is convinced that she and her Beetle can win. So she accepts the bet. When Herbie realizes what has just happened, he feels betrayed. The next morning, Maggie meets Charisma in the kitchen. Charisma suggests moving their trip to New York up, but Maggie tells her that she has an important race that day and invites her to come along. They go to Kevin's shop, where he tells them that Herbie is out of control. He asks Maggie to talk to her car, but instead of calming him down, she makes things worse by telling him that he has to do exactly what she says. At the track, the two cars line up side by side at the starting line, waiting for the signal to begin. When the race starts, Herbie takes the lead, but little by little he begins to fall behind. As the finish line approaches, the Beetle suddenly stops and deliberately loses the race. Maggie gets out of the car, and Tripp asks her to show the world who she really is. When she takes off her helmet, everyone is shocked, especially Ray. Kevin tries to comfort her and tells her they should leave. But at that moment, Tripp reminds them of the bet and keeps the Volkswagen. Furious, Maggie walks away and Ray approaches his daughter. He is deeply disappointed because she lied to him. Maggie tries to explain herself, but her father is so upset that he simply turns his back on her and leaves. That same day, Maggie decides to go to New York with Charisma, but her friend manages to convince her to come back and do what she truly loves. Maggie goes to find Tripp and demands that he give her car back. He tells her that Crash only took it out for a drive, but the truth is much worse. Herbie has ended up in a monster truck show, where he is about to be destroyed as part of the spectacle. In the arena, the Beetle is being hit by several vehicles at the same time. Seeing her friend in danger, Maggie tries to get inside to help him, but the security guard stops her. She then speaks to the owner of the place and tells him she wants to buy her car back. The old man offers her a deal. If the Beetle manages to leave the arena in one piece, she can take him for free. Just then, a giant monster truck appears, ready to crush Herbie. While Charisma distracts the guard, Maggie runs down the stands and enters the arena. She has to dodge several vehicles to avoid being run over as she tries to reach the car. When Herbie sees her, he fills with joy and regains hope. Just as Maggie is about to be hit by the truck, the Beetle appears and performs a maneuver to pull her out through the sunroof. Right after that, Crash is thrown out of the driver's seat, and Maggie and Herbie begin working together to escape. Herbie avoids every vehicle in his path and flees from the monster truck trying to crush him. They use another car as a ramp to jump onto the back of the truck and destroy it. After defeating everyone, Maggie leaves with her Beetle and takes him straight to Kevin's shop. Seeing Herbie's condition, Kevin is shocked, but he still agrees to make peace with Maggie. The next day, they go to watch Ray Jr. race, but he has another accident. This time, he has to be taken to the hospital, where they discover that he has lost depth perception in his left eye. The doctor says he is no longer fit to race on Sunday. Ray Jr. tries to convince his father to let Maggie take his place, but he refuses. Maggie tells him that all she has ever wanted was to be on the track and asks why he doesn't support her. when she has only had one accident and her brother has had many more. Then Ray confesses that Maggie looks too much like her mother and that he already lost her once, so he couldn't bear to lose her again. Kevin makes several calls to get parts and fix Herbie, but his supplier refuses to give him anything until he pays an old debt. At that moment, Ray Jr. shows up and asks his sister to take his place in Sunday's NASCAR race, no matter what their father thinks. Maggie agrees, but on one condition: she will only race if she can do it with Herbie. So Ray Jr. gathers the whole team to restore the Beetle in time. They replace the entire body and the tires, giving the car a completely new look. The next step is to paint it and make it even more impressive. On Sunday, when they arrive at the stadium where the race will take place, Tripp sees the Beetle and, still angry about what happened, goes straight to confront Larry, asking him why they didn't get rid of that car like he told them to. Larry tries to calm him down by talking about a new advertising deal he has just signed, but nothing manages to ease Tripp's anger. Before the race, Maggie takes a moment to talk to her Beetle. She apologizes and thanks Herbie for never abandoning her. Then the two of them head to the starting line, drawing everyone's attention. When Ray sees his daughter on television, he becomes very nervous. He doesn't want Maggie to risk her life on the track, but at the same time he feels deeply proud of her. After checking the safety equipment and changing the steering wheels, the announcer gives the order to start the engines. The drivers take a couple of warm-up laps, and the race begins. At first, Herbie and Maggie fall behind as the other cars take the lead, but little by little they start to move up and regain positions. During the break, Ray turns off the television and decides to go to the track to watch his daughter race in person. After the first pit stop to change tires, the competition remains very close. Tripp is in the lead, but Herbie soon catches up to him. At that moment, several cars surround them, and it seems like everything is lost. However, Maggie hears her father's voice cheering her on and telling her that she is capable of winning. That gives her the strength she needs to break free from the trap. The problem now is that Herbie is leaking oil and won't be able to finish the race unless he is fixed. At the next pit stop, the mechanics manage to repair the tank, but they warn that the Beetle cannot take another hit or he won't make it to the end. They return to the track at a disadvantage, but soon they are once again side by side with Tripp. With only half a lap to go, both cars run neck and neck at the front. Tripp tries to force them off the track, and the tape covering Herbie's tank starts to come loose. Just when Tripp is getting ready for the final blow, Maggie breaks control, crashes into the wall, and Tripp's car begins to spin, blocking the track. In a maneuver never seen before, the duo climbs onto the safety barrier, regains the lead, and crosses the finish line first. With this victory, Maggie becomes the first woman to win a NASCAR championship. She celebrates with her family and friends, while Tripp walks angrily across the grass, insisting that the car is alive. After a long time, Kevin finally gets a kiss from Maggie, who thanks him for all his support. Weeks later, Ray tells Herbie to come home early because a big race is coming up. Now that the Beetle has found his soulmate, he decides to take her out on a date. Don't forget to like and subscribe and let me know what you think about this movie.